Imagine facing 6 months of brutal winter with no grocery stores, no refrigeration, and no modern preservation methods. For medieval peasants, winter meant potential starvation or survival through ingenious food storage techniques. While modern families panic over 3-day power outages, medieval communities thrived through months-long winters using natural preservation methods that kept food fresh, nutritious, and safe without any technology. Technique 1. Root cellar construction. And management. Medieval peasants understood that Earth's natural insulation provides consistent temperatures below the frost line. Root cellars were excavated 4 to 8 feet deep, reaching depths where ground temperature remained constant. At P-40 degrees Fahrenheit throughout winter, stone walls provided thermal mass that absorbed and released heat slowly, preventing dangerous temperature fluctuations that would spoil stored foods. Ventilation systems incorporated carefully positioned openings that allowed carbon dioxide to escape while preventing warm air infiltration. Wooden shelving systems elevated food containers above ground moisture while ensuring air circulation around stored items. Humidity levels naturally maintained at 85 to 95% prevented food dehydration while inhibiting mold growth. These underground chambers could preserve root vegetables, preserved meats, and dairy products for 6 months or more, providing reliable nutrition throughout the harshest winters when no fresh food grew. Above ground technique to underground. Cache pit. Strategic food caching involved digging waterproof storage pits away from main living areas to prevent contamination and theft. Medieval families excavated these pits 3 to 5 feet deep, lining them with flat stones and clay mortar to create watertight seals. Layered storage systems separated different food types using straw, bark, or wooden dividers that prevented cross-contamination while allowing air circulation. Drainage systems incorporated gravel bottoms and clay channels that diverted groundwater away from stored foods. Camouflage techniques disguised pit locations using natural vegetation and careful soil replacement that made caches invisible to raiders. Recovery methods involved marking systems that allowed families to locate buried food even under snow cover. Multiple cache distribution reduced risk of total food loss if one storage site failed. These hidden reserves often contained emergency grain supplies, dried meats, and preserved vegetables that could sustain families during unexpected food shortages or siege conditions. Technique 3. Cave. Storage utilization. Natural caves provided ready-made storage environments with stable temperatures and protection from weather extremes. Medieval communities identified suitable caves through understanding of air circulation patterns that prevented stagnant air and moisture buildup. Temperature stability in caves typically maintained Y-55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, ideal for preserving many food types without freezing or excessive warmth. Moisture control involved selecting caves with proper drainage and air movement, while avoiding locations prone to flooding or excessive humidity. Food placement strategies maximized available space through wooden shelving and hanging systems that kept provisions off cave floors. Security measures included stone barriers and camouflaged entrances that protected stored food from wild animals and human thieves. Shared community cave systems allowed multiple families to benefit from large natural storage spaces while distributing maintenance responsibilities. These underground environments could preserve cheese wheels, cured meats, grain containers, and fermented vegetables throughout winter months when surface storage would fail. Technique for ice house. Construction. Winter ice harvesting provided medieval communities with natural refrigeration that extended well into summer months. Icehouse construction involved excavating circular or square pits 8 to 12 feet deep, then lining walls with stone or thick timber to provide insulation. Ice storage began with harvesting frozen pond and river ice during coldest winter periods. When ice thickness reached optimal density, insulation techniques used straw, sawdust, or dried leaves between ice layers that prevented melting, while allowing drainage of meltwater. Drainage systems incorporated sloped floors and stone channels that carried away moisture without compromising ice integrity. Access methods included trapdoors and steep stairs that minimized heat infiltration during food retrieval. Temperature maintenance relied on thermal mass principles, where surrounding earth kept ice frozen for months. These structures could preserve fresh meat, dairy products, and vegetables well into late spring, providing fresh nutrition long after winter food supplies typically spoiled. Technique 5. Buried grain. Storage waterproof grain, storage protected, precious cereal crops from moisture, pests, and theft through sophisticated burial techniques. Container construction used large ceramic vessels or wooden barrels sealed with pine pitch and animal fat to create airtight environments. Grain drying occurred during autumn harvest, when crops were thoroughly dried before storage to prevent mold and fermentation. Pest deterrent methods incorporated aromatic herbs like mint, wormwood, and tansy that repelled insects while preserving grain quality. Sealing techniques ensured complete air exclusion through tight-fitting lids sealed with clay or beeswax that prevented moisture infiltration. Location marking systems used stones, trees, or other permanent landmarks that allowed grain recovery even after heavy snowfall. Multiple cache distribution meant families stored grain in several locations to reduce risk of total loss from flooding, theft, or discovery. Container sizes optimized for family needs typically held 50 to 100 pounds of grain, enough to provide bread and porridge for weeks during winter scarcity. Technique 6. Snow. Pit preservations. Snow's natural insulation properties provided free refrigeration when properly utilized for food storage. Construction involved digging pits in consistently cold, shaded locations where snow accumulation remained stable throughout winter. Food wrapping techniques used animal hides, bark, or woven baskets that protected provisions from direct snow contact while allowing cold temperature benefits. Layering systems separated different food types using straw or wooden dividers that prevented flavors from mixing while maintaining organization. Access maintenance required regular removal of surface ice and snow to prevent complete burial of stored items. Protection measures included covers made from animal skins or woven materials that kept snow clean while preventing animal access. Temperature monitoring ensured stored food remained frozen without experiencing damaging freeze-thaw cycles. This method effectively preserved fresh meat from autumn slaughter, root vegetables, and dairy products that would otherwise spoil quickly in fluctuating winter temperatures. Technique 7. Smokehouses and chimney curing. Medieval smokehouses utilized controlled smoke and low heat to preserve meat throughout winter months when fresh protein became scarce. Construction featured thick stone or timber walls with adjustable ventilation that regulated smoke, circulation, and temperature control. Wood selection involved hardwoods like oak, hickory, and beech that produced steady smoke without excessive heat while imparting preservative compounds. Temperature control maintained 80–90 degrees Fahrenheit through careful fire management and airflow regulation that prevented cooking while ensuring preservation. Meat preparation required salt brining before smoking to enhance preservation while drawing out moisture that bacteria needed for growth. Hanging systems used wooden hooks and racks that allowed air circulation around curing meats while preventing contact with surfaces. Combined heating and preservation benefits meant smokehouses provided both food preservation and limited space heating during cold weather. Maintenance during freezing conditions involved protecting fires from wind and moisture, while ensuring continuous smoke production throughout the curing process. Technique 8. Attic and loft storage. Upper levels of medieval homes provided ideal storage environments that utilized rising heat from living spaces below. Heat utilization captured warm air that rose naturally from hearths and cooking fires, creating temperatures several degrees warmer than outside conditions. Ventilation systems prevented condensation, build up through carefully positioned openings that allowed moisture escape while retaining beneficial warmth. Hanging systems supported dried foods, herb bundles, and cured meats from wooden beams, using ropes and hooks that maximized vertical space. Container arrangements placed sealed pottery and wooden boxes in organized patterns that allowed access while protecting contents from rodents. Temperature gradients throughout attic spaces created different storage zones suitable for various food types, requiring specific preservation conditions. Pest control involved sealing entry points and maintaining cleanliness that discouraged rodent infestations in valuable food stores. Access methods used ladders and trapdoors that allowed winter food retrieval without compromising heat retention in living spaces below. Technique 9. Barn storage systems. Agricultural buildings provided large-scale storage that utilized animal body heat for temperature regulation during harsh winter months. Animal heat utilization captured warmth from livestock body temperatures that could raise barn temperatures 10–15 degrees Fahrenheit, above outside conditions. Separation techniques prevented food contamination through physical barriers and elevated storage that kept provisions away from animal areas. Hay and straw insulation created protective barriers around food storage areas while providing additional animal feed and bedding. Grain storage in elevated loft areas protected cereal crops from moisture and pests, while utilizing rising warm air for preservation benefits. Protection measures included sealed containers and hanging systems that prevented rodent access to valuable winter food supplies. Community barn sharing allowed multiple families to benefit from large storage spaces while distributing construction and maintenance costs. Inventory management systems tracked food supplies among different families while ensuring fair distribution of shared storage resources. Technique 10, outdoor clamp storage route, vegetable clamps, created weatherproof storage mounds that preserved crops throughout winter using earth insulation and natural ventilation. Mounded storage construction involved laying vegetables in organized piles, then covering with alternating layers of straw and earth that provided insulation. Drainage systems incorporated sloped positioning and gravel bases that prevented water accumulation that would cause root rot and spoilage. Insulation techniques used thick straw layers followed by earth covering that maintained stable temperatures while allowing necessary air circulation. Access methods during frozen ground required careful excavation techniques that minimized heat loss while retrieving needed vegetables. Ventilation prevented spoilage through strategic straw placement that allowed air movement while preventing excessive moisture buildup. Camouflage and theft protection made clamps appear as natural landscape features that concealed valuable winter food supplies from raiders. This preservation method could keep potatoes, carrots, turnips, and other root vegetables fresh for 6 months without any artificial preservation. Technique 11. Wall cache systems built in storage utilized thick medieval home construction to create hidden food storage spaces within wall cavities and foundation areas. Wall cavity utilization involved incorporating storage spaces during home construction that took advantage of thick stone walls for insulation benefits. Insulation properties of stone walls provided thermal mass that moderated temperature fluctuations while protecting stored foods from freezing. Hidden storage techniques concealed food caches behind removable stones or wooden panels that appeared as normal wall construction to casual observers. Access methods from interior spaces allowed winter food retrieval without exposure to harsh weather conditions or alerting potential thieves. Temperature regulation through thermal mass meant wall caches maintained more stable conditions than exposed storage areas. Security features included complex access mechanisms and camouflaged openings that protected valuable food supplies from discovery and theft. These internal storage systems could preserve dried grains, salted meats, and preserved vegetables in close proximity to living areas for convenient winter access. Technique 12. Windmill and tower storage. Elevated storage structures provided protection from ground moisture. While utilizing wind circulation for food preservation benefits, wind circulation benefits included natural air movement that prevented moisture buildup, while maintaining dry conditions ideal for preserved foods. Grain storage in mill structures took advantage of existing infrastructure while utilizing height advantages that kept food away from ground-dwelling pests. Temperature advantages of height meant elevated storage typically remained several degrees warmer than ground level during winter months. Community access arrangements allowed multiple families to utilize shared storage facilities while distributing maintenance responsibilities and security duties. Protection measures included solid construction and limited access points that prevented both weather damage and unauthorized food removal. Inventory rotation systems ensured older stored foods were used first, while maintaining quality of longer-term reserves. These elevated storage areas could preserve large quantities of grain, dried vegetables, and preserved meats that supplied entire communities during winter scarcity periods. Technique 13. Fat sealing for winter meats. Rendered animal fat provided medieval families with effective preservation that kept meat fresh throughout winter months without refrigeration. Fat collection and preparation involved rendering pork, duck, or goose fat at temperatures around 200 degrees Fahrenheit that killed bacteria while creating pure preservation medium. Complete submersion techniques required fully covering meat pieces with liquid fat that solidified upon cooling to create airtight seals. Container selection used ceramic crocks or wooden barrels that provided non-reactive storage. While maintaining fat consistency throughout winter temperature variations, temperature requirements maintained fat in semi-solid state that prevented melting while ensuring effective preservation. Barrier against bacterial contamination, retrieval methods allowed accessing preserved meat without compromising remaining stored portions through careful excavation techniques. Fat recycling enabled reuse of preservation medium multiple times throughout winter, while maintaining effectiveness through proper heating and straining. Combination preservation integrated fat sealing with salt curing and smoking that created multiple preservation barriers for enhanced food safety and extended storage life. Technique 14. Salt packing for root vegetables. Coarse salt created preservation environments that extended root vegetable storage far beyond normal keeping times. Through moisture control and antimicrobial action, salt selection required pure coarse crystals that provided effective moisture absorption while preventing oversalting of stored vegetables. Layering techniques alternated vegetables and salt in precise ratios that ensured preservation without excessive sodium absorption into food items. Moisture control worked through salt's hygroscopic properties that drew water from vegetables, while creating hostile environments for bacterial growth. Container preparation involved wooden boxes or ceramic vessels, sealed to prevent moisture infiltration while allowing salt to work effectively. Retrieval and cleaning methods removed excess salt through gentle brushing and rinsing that restored vegetables to edible condition. Salt recovery systems allowed reuse of preservation medium through drying and grinding that maintained effectiveness throughout winter storage period. Specific vegetables like carrots, turnips, and parsnips responded particularly well to salt packing while maintaining nutritional content and pleasant texture for cooking throughout winter months. Technique 15. Honey preservation systems. Raw honey. Natural antimicrobial properties provided medieval preservation that kept fruits and meats fresh without spoilage throughout winter storage periods. Honey's antimicrobial action resulted from hydrogen peroxide production and low pH levels that prevented bacterial growth while maintaining food quality. Complete submersion techniques required covering food items entirely with honey that created oxygen-free environments hostile to spoilage organisms. Container preparation used ceramic vessels or wooden barrels that accommodated honey's viscous consistency while providing adequate sealing for long-term storage. Temperature considerations maintained honey in workable consistency that allowed complete food coverage while preventing crystallization that reduced preservation effectiveness. Retrieval and cleaning involved gentle warming and rinsing that removed excess honey while restoring foods to consumable condition. Honey recycling allowed multiple uses of preservation medium through heating and straining that removed food particles while maintaining antimicrobial properties. Combination preservation methods integrated honey with other techniques, like smoking or salt curing, that enhanced overall preservation effectiveness while creating unique flavor profiles appreciated in medieval cuisine. Technique 16. Controlled fermentation for winter cold weather. Fermentation management allowed medieval families to create preserved vegetables that provided essential nutrition throughout winter scarcity periods. Fermentation management required understanding temperature control that maintained bacterial activity while preventing spoilage during fluctuating winter conditions. Sauerkraut and vegetable production utilized natural lactobacillus bacteria that created acidic environments, hostile to harmful microorganisms, while enhancing nutritional content. Temperature control during freezing weather involved insulation techniques and strategic placement that kept fermentation vessels above damaging freeze temperatures. Container insulation used straw, animal hides, or buried placement that maintained optimal fermentation temperatures between 60–70 degrees Fahrenheit throughout winter months. Timing considerations coordinated fermentation completion with peak consumption needs, while ensuring adequate preservation for extended storage periods. Monitoring and maintenance required regular checking of fermentation progress while making adjustments for changing weather conditions. Nutritional benefits of fermented foods included increased vitamin content and improved digestibility that provided essential nutrition when fresh vegetables became unavailable during harsh winter conditions. Technique 17. Dried food storage systems. Autumn food drying created concentrated nutrition sources that provided essential calories and nutrients throughout winter when fresh foods became completely unavailable. Drying and preparation techniques involved controlled dehydration using fire, heat, solar energy, or air circulation that removed moisture while preserving nutritional content. Container selection required moisture-proof storage using sealed pottery, wooden boxes, or woven baskets that prevented rehydration while protecting from pest contamination. Hanging arrangements utilized available space efficiently through rope and hook systems that kept dried foods organized while allowing air circulation. Rehydration methods for winter cooking involved soaking and heating techniques that restored palatability while maintaining nutritional value of preserved foods. Pest protection during storage required sealed containers and aromatic deterrents that prevented insect infestation without contaminating stored provisions. Quality assessment involved regular inspection that identified spoilage early while ensuring rotation of older supplies before deterioration occurred. Combination storage integrated dried foods with other preservation methods that maximized food security while providing dietary variety throughout monotonous winter months. Technique 18. Vinegar preservation for winter. Acetic acid preservation created safe, flavorful foods that provided essential nutrition and variety during winter months, when fresh vegetables became completely unavailable. Production involved controlled fermentation of fruit, wines, or grain alcohol that created preservation. Strength of 4 to 6% acidity levels necessary for food safety. Vegetable pickling utilized fresh autumn produce that could withstand acidic preservation, while maintaining texture and nutritional content throughout winter storage. Acidity levels required careful measurement that ensured pathogenic bacteria destruction, while maintaining palatability and food quality during extended storage periods. Container preparation used ceramic crocks or wooden barrels that resisted acid corrosion while providing adequate sealing for long-term preservation effectiveness. Storage temperature requirements maintained preserved foods above freezing while preventing excessive warmth that could compromise preservation integrity. Flavor development during storage created complex tastes through controlled fermentation that enhanced rather than diminished food quality over time. Integration with other preservation methods combined vinegar, techniques with salt curing and smoking that created diverse preserved food options for winter consumption. Technique 19, clay pot storage systems, ceramic vessel storage, provided moisture, regulation, and pest protection that preserved grains and dried foods throughout harsh winter conditions. Clay vessel construction required specific pottery techniques that created adequate storage capacity while ensuring proper sealing for effective preservation. Sealing techniques involved tight-fitting lids secured with beeswax or clay mortar that prevented moisture infiltration while maintaining internal storage conditions. Underground burial controlled temperature through earth's natural insulation that kept storage vessels above freezing while preventing excessive warmth. Moisture regulation occurred through clay's porous properties that maintained optimal humidity levels while preventing condensation that could spoil stored foods. Retrieval methods during frozen ground required careful excavation that minimized heat loss while accessing needed provisions during harsh weather conditions. Multiple pot systems allowed organized storage of different food types while reducing risk of total loss from container failure. Repair and maintenance involved pottery techniques that restored damaged vessels, while maintaining storage effectiveness throughout extended winter storage periods. Technique 20, community storage cooperation, shared storage facilities, maximized preservation effectiveness while distributing labor and resources among multiple families facing identical winter survival challenges. Shared facility construction involved community labor that created larger, more effective storage structures than individual families could build independently. Resource pooling combined materials, tools, and expertise that resulted in superior preservation facilities while reducing individual family costs and effort. Security arrangements included guard schedules and access control that protected community food supplies, while ensuring fair distribution among contributing families. Distribution systems established protocols that allocated stored food based on family contributions, while ensuring adequate nutrition for all community members. Maintenance responsibilities divided tasks among families that kept storage facilities functioning effectively while distributing workload throughout winter months. Risk distribution prevented total food loss through diversified storage locations and shared oversight that identified problems before they became catastrophic. Social bonds strengthened through cooperative storage created community resilience that extended beyond food security to include mutual support during other winter hardships and emergencies. Medieval winter survival depended entirely on autumn preparation and sophisticated storage techniques developed over centuries. These methods represent humanity's most tested food security strategies, proven through countless winters when failure meant death. Unlike modern preservation that relies on constant energy input, medieval techniques work with natural processes to maintain food quality through thermal regulation, moisture control, and atmospheric manipulation. Today's food system vulnerabilities become obvious during winter power outages, supply chain disruptions, and extreme weather events. Modern families often maintain only days' worth of food, while medieval peasants routinely stored months of provisions using techniques that cost nothing and require no maintenance. These methods offer genuine food security independence from infrastructure and technology. The nutritional advantages surprised most people. Properly stored medieval foods often retain superior vitamin and mineral content compared to modern processed alternatives. Root vegetables stored in earth maintain crisp textures and full nutritional profiles, while properly cured meats develop complex flavors impossible to achieve through industrial processing. Environmental benefits matter equally in our climate-conscious era. Medieval storage techniques produce zero emissions, require no electricity, and use entirely renewable materials. They work with seasonal cycles rather than fighting them, creating sustainable food systems that supported European populations through the medieval warm period and subsequent Little Ice Age. Economic implications extend beyond individual households. Communities mastering these techniques develop resilience against food price volatility and supply shortages. The methods require initial labor investment but eliminate ongoing costs associated with mechanical refrigeration and industrial preservation. These aren't primitive techniques. Understanding these techniques connects us to fundamental food security principles, obscured by modern convenience. When you store root vegetables in sand or cure meat through controlled drying, you participate in survival strategies that sustained human civilization through its most challenging periods. They're sophisticated solutions developed through centuries of refinement and testing. Conclusion: medieval peasants faced winter's challenge with ingenious storage techniques that kept families fed through months of scarcity. Their methods, from underground root cellars to sophisticated preservation systems, prove that food security doesn't require modern technology. These time-tested techniques offer practical solutions for contemporary challenges, power outages, supply chain disruptions, and economic uncertainty. While we depend on refrigeration and global food networks, medieval communities created local food security using only natural materials and seasonal cycles. Their preservation methods often produced superior nutrition and flavor compared to modern alternatives, while eliminating energy costs and infrastructure dependency. Understanding these techniques provides both practical skills and deeper appreciation for sustainable food systems. In our convenience-driven world, medieval wisdom offers reliable, cost-effective food security that works independently of technology. Sometimes the oldest solutions really are the most dependable.